stage. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. Silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How you doing, folks? This is 1100 WSGI. I'm your LaVern. This is One Street Over. Faith Friday. We made it. Snow Days week. I mean, oh my goodness, we made it. And here's the big question now, and the students out there, all my students are going, Miss Vivio, do you think we'll go back Monday? No, I don't. I don't either. Let's turn it up and let's talk to the weatherman. Bill Jones. Pull that mic right to you. You have to get right on top of that one.
Okay.
Mark can stand a little bit back from you. That one's kind of a little bit louder. But
I don't call the shots, but in my opinion, I would not go on Monday if
I don't think you can.
If I was a school superintendent.
Well, and all you got to do is watch the director of schools. He's called now.
Okay.
Not the superintendent.
All right.
Not the superintendent, but it's so funny. Everybody needs to go back and watch we did a road test this morning. I started not to do one. I thought, nothing happened out there. Oh my goodness. It was the slickest we've had it all week.
It is.
Because we had snowpack earlier in the week.
And a little bit of sleet, ice, falling rain, and snow.
That's what we had last night. And man, you messaged me. Looks like we kind of dodged a bullet yesterday because that rain came in a little bit earlier than we thought it would.
Someone said, it's just hype. It's not.
No, you just don't.
There's no way to tell what's going to happen right here versus across town. You just can't.
And here's the thing, guys. The difference of a degree yesterday would have been ice.
I would have hoping for 2 or 3 more degrees. That would have made a big difference, but it didn't happen.
But and what we have right now is we're not getting out of the 20s today is the forecast, and it's going to be cloud cover, so there's not going to be sunshine. We're going to be even colder Saturday and Sunday. Finally up in the 40s on Monday.
It's going to hit about 19 about 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then wind tomorrow. I can't wait till Monday.
Yeah, me either. And it's we're such wimps down here, guys. This is life up north. When we go up north,
he's used to it.
He's laughing at us. He's laughing at us. All of our northern friends are laughing at us because this is life, and you can't go anywhere without putting on your snow boots and putting on your gear and putting on your Stormy, and
you just learn to dress for it.
Yeah,
your blood thickens up a little bit, but
I was so cold yesterday at one point. I had on 2 long sleeve shirts, a t-shirt, and a hoodie.
In the house.
Yeah. And I still had on my Stormy.
It's like turn on the heat,
This is something that I have learned. And this is, women, we will push back on this because we don't want to mess up our hair. Stop it. Stop it. It took me to be 60 years old to listen to my husband and say, if you'll put a hat on your head, you'll stay warmer. Yes. Yes. And I mean, not a ball cap. I'm talking a Stormy Cromer. You can get your Stormy Cromer on Amazon. I'm doing an ad. I want them to send me some Stormy Cromer hats. I need a Stormy wardrobe. I'm predicting, Bill, we're going to have another week of this before winter's over.
Maybe, but this is...
Mark me.
Underline that.
Mark me. I predicted it. I don't know why. I just got a feeling we're going to have another week of this.
You want to put any money on this?
I don't gamble at all.
Anymore.
But no, I quit. No.
Yeah.
Okay. True story. When we first started getting the lottery and stuff, I would play the lottery and I'd get a little too excited about it. And I thought, I don't need to do this. You know how you just have things.
Yeah,
This is Faith Friday. Let's talk about the things that we know that can be very your flesh wanting to do it. And I was like, I don't need to do this. And so I haven't bought a lottery ticket since. I haven't gambled since.
Only time I ever did it, one time was another couple and us went up over Kentucky line to a restaurant. And when we came out, there was a little building there that sold lottery tickets. I said, I've never bought one. Let's go in there and I'll just get one. I go in there with people lined around the wall.
I know, it's
and they looked
incredible.
like they really needed some clothes or, something. They didn't look good. And as soon as I got my ticket, they rushed over and wanted to look at it. And I thought, what is this? That's all they do. That was their whole life is lottery tickets.
Going to win the lottery. And
that's an addiction for you.
It is. And anything that you are, let's go back, celebrate recovery, you guys, is for everybody because we all have things that we have a hard time controlling. For me, it's food. Food. And my disorganization.
Me too.
I am a scattered mess. And if I gave into it, I would be a hoarder. And I don't, and I'm not. Somebody's
got to be.
I've got a couple of rooms that they're a little hoardish, okay? Stop. What am I doing?
How many fingers have you got?
Well, and so here's the thing. What am I doing during the snow break? I am working on clearing some of that.
Yes.
Have I not?
Yes, you have.
I'm doing that too.
A whole pile of stuff to
now,
go to
if Cope would just open up, we would have.
It may have been open yesterday. We didn't go check. Maybe today we can get out and check. But we wanted to go to Jackson today, but I don't think we're going to get to. I'm afraid it's too slick. And I wanted to go see my grandbaby.
Yeah, we slipped off the road twice on the way here. So
in the expedition.
Yeah, 4-wheel drive.
So I don't think we can even attempt to get the Camry out. So I don't know.
Yeah, we tried that once yesterday and got stuck.
We did. We were over, and I did this. Go watch our little drive-in video because it's quite funny. Because this Yankee but you think you had forgotten to pop it into 4-wheel drive, right?
Oh, this morning?
Yeah.
I put it in 4-wheel drive, but I don't think it went into 4-wheel drive. No.
Okay, so we may have been just in 2-wheel drive coming out, and that may have been part of the problem. But
no, it might have been what saved us.
True. Who knows? But go watch the video because, it was a little slippery out there. So, all right. Faith Friday, welcome to it. This is 1100 WSGI. Bill, thank you. He lives closer to the studio than we do.
I used to say I could walk here, but I won't.
You'll slip.
Not in this.
I wouldn't get here.
Well, and here's something I want you to keep in mind, too. The churches that don't have it in their budget to clear their parking lots, you may have a lot of services that are online. Do not criticize your administration because they're trying to keep the folks that just will not stay home for their own good from falling in those parking lots and really injuring themselves. And having been on staff for a while at Madison, that's a thing because we're going to talk about.
Will not forsake the assembly.
Mm-hmm. Mark, you can pull that door too because we're so loud. If you don't mind, do you mind pulling that door too? Yeah, okay. Or Bill, whoever, just pull that door too.
He's younger than I am.
Yeah, right. He may be more agile.
Yeah, he's much more agile than I am.
Do you have arthritis?
Oh, lots.
Yeah. Okay. So you get around.
Arts.
You get around pretty good though. But
too much martial arts.
Really?
I've been doing it so long, most of life.
Okay.
As you do thousands and thousands of kicks and punches and things, you're going to mess something up.
That's just it.
And I went to this thing one time where they had a lot of the old masters that came in Japan. They were up on stage, and they were all on walking canes and walkers. And I said, oh, I don't want this.
Oh,
and I changed my mind about it.
That's interesting. I had never heard that.
Well, you don't see that normally. This was a private thing, They wasn't. Well, but they all are hurting.
You abuse your body. It responds.
I'm trying to figure out budgetarily how I can get one of those swim spas because I think that's the best thing in the world for me is to swim. A swim spa.
You sit in one spot and swim.
And you go against
boring.
Well,
you're not going anywhere.
Swimming's boring. Walking is boring.
Right.
Jogging is real boring.
We had a swimming pool growing up, and I have no desire to have a pool in my yard. For those of you who do that have young kids, absolutely. My daughter-in-law's mom's putting in this thing for the grandkids. I mean, it's wonderful. I don't want to maintain that, but I do want something that I can heat and swim anytime because I'm an avid swimmer, and that's the best thing in the world for arthritis.
You see that guy in Nashville on the news last night jumps in the water every year, every week.
Yep. I have a friend.
That'll get you killed.
Althea.
No.
Oh, I have a friend.
Great. It feels good.
Althea Sickle, bless her. She got on. She on like Monday. She climbs into her cold tank. Yeah, and just like swim gear, and I'm just like, oh, and I know it's good for you. I've done it once or twice. And he will take cold plunges a lot because it's so good it's just good for you. But man, it's hard, especially as cold natured as I am. Oh, but Althea is trying to get me back doing it. And I'm like, oh.
I have an 8-foot watering trough.
And he'll climb
that way
in.
You get in
I love it.
with the cows standing there watching you.
No,
we don't have any cattle. It's just it's
Maybe in the old days.
It's good. It's a good ice bath, and it works as a good baptismal. We've had churches borrow it to baptize.
Baptized every month.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah. Well, no, one of the storefront churches that spun off of our congregation at Madison Well House, they borrowed it a couple of times to have
really?
have baptisms. Yep. It works. It's awesome. What my point was, though, we were talking about this Faith Friday, we're going to talk a lot about some of the things that we do because of our foundations of faith, that when we really look at it, kind of falls more into tradition versus what maybe Christ is really leading us to, and how we balance that, and how, because, I mean, we'll get more into it. And I don't know that I'll talk I don't know, I'm not going to talk a lot. I like to say that, but I want to hear really your background. And I've heard a lot of it, and then my husband grew up Catholic, y'all. And so looking at some of those faith traditions, but those faith traditions are the things that will prevent people from staying home if we open the doors on Sunday, because they believe you cannot forsake the assembly, from Scripture. And if they do, they're going to go to hell. And I mean, I'm telling you, they believe it's going to put their salvation at risk if they forsake the assembly and the administration opens those doors. And that's the reason some of these churches stay closed when their parking lots are treacherous, And if you've got a snowplow and you're just bored and you can do it, talk to some of these churches and plow their parking lots for them, because that's not in their budget. And if they've missed attendance times and things like that, say they've missed some services, their contributions go down and things like that, and that hits their budget too. Unfortunately, I mean, you want these buildings where you can go and worship and comfort. It costs money, and so you've got to balance. Do I want that, or do I think it's a waste? I mean, that's how we do. That's how we gather as a body of believers, and it's a good thing. I mean, I couldn't do life without my church and my church family. And so anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today on Faith Friday. So where do we want to start? Bill, you just kind of unpack for us your faith background. I'm CFC, Church of Christ. I've grown up in it, and I can talk a little bit about that.
Well,
but what is your background? You're Baptist, right?
Well, I go to a Baptist church.
Is that what you were at birth?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were
most
born...
of us go where our parents went.
Yeah.
Then there's those that didn't go anywhere.
True.
So what do they do?
Right.
So in my case, I got born again when I was 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And all the stories they've told then, I thought, aren't they unusual? They're about 11-year-olds in the Sunday school class. I thought, why nobody else at 20 or 15 or but just 11 in that class? But anyway. My mother and I were baptized together. My mother went to a Presbyterian church, and then she switched over when my dad got married. I started going to Baptist church, so she decided to get baptized when I did. Mm-hmm. I don't think she decided. The preacher just assumed.
Come on.
So she was baptized the same time I was, which was sort of unique,
Well, I think that's cool.
But in my case, I've always wanted to know more. Mm-hmm. I really didn't go by what people told me. I go, well, that doesn't sound exactly right. Mm-hmm. So I went around to a lot of different denominations. I went to a lot of churches. I went to a Catholic church, and I went to college at Episcopalian College. Mm-hmm. Well, that really shook me up, because as a Baptist boy, they didn't really teach me anything except Baptist doctrine. So when I get there, I had my first religion. I took all the religion courses I had, because this is interesting to me, but the one that taught it was a priest. And what he said, of course, we did have but 16 in our class. It was a small school. And the priest said, how many of you boys believe in angels? Well, I put my hand up, and some others did too. And he said, you're fools. There's no such thing. Well, it went downhill from there.
Oh.
by the time I got back, I couldn't fight that because I didn't know any scripture. I hadn't studied it, just what I heard. So I came home, and there was a man at the Springfield Baptist Church named Bob Lawrence. He was the educational director. Bob ran around with a lot of us kids and brought us up, and, we really spent a lot of time with Bob, and he was a good man. He just died a few years ago. He came back here to visit a few years ago, and I got to meet him, and I was so glad I did because he died right after that. But anyway, I called Bob. I said, I got to see you. So I went down and talked to him, and I said, I don't know what I am, atheist, agnostic, or something, but I've been ripped up in little shreds, and I don't know what I believe anymore. Well, he laughed, and he began to tell me things that calmed me down and brought me down to earth, solid things out of the Bible.
So that conversation happened when you were just out of college?
In college, freshman year. So I came home my freshman year.
You figured out, man, there's something going on.
Yeah.
I
had never been told
so that
it was any other thing.
You were a very young man. Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead. I lost track because you had said something about it. You visited with him later, but this is the conversation you had.
Later. I wanted to, he was probably one of my most admirable people in my life.
Right.
Because of what he did for us.
Okay.
And one time, I'll tell you what, there was Colonial Hotel was uptown, and you're not old enough to remember that.
I wasn't here.
No.
I didn't get
it
here.
It was on the corner where the bank is now. And there was a little restaurant called the Corner Grill on the right side of it. And a bunch of us from church went up there. Bob took us up there to eat or something. And I thought it'd be funny if I could slip out without paying. So we did. We went out and got in the car, and me and somebody was sitting in the back seat giggling about it. And then Bob heard it, and he said, "You're going right back in there, and you're going to tell them what you did, and you're going to pay them." And I never did that again. That was the best thing could happen to me. So anyway, I began to research and search. I didn't know I was researching at the time. And I went to everything. I couldn't nail down truth. It seemed like if I caught it here, there was some other place that showed it wrong. And I thought, well, you remember a guy named Garner Ted Armstrong? And
it rings a bell.
He had a radio show.
Oh, okay.
Herbert W. Armstrong was his father. And they were out of California, and they had some off-the-wall stuff, but it was interesting.
But it was faith-based.
Well, sort of. They were really hot on the Sabbath, really strong on that.
Okay.
And they had some strange ideas. Well, that sort of interested me, and I pretty soon realized they're just, they're not right. But anyway, I started looking at things. I went to every kind of church, and I went to one church, a Pentecostal church over on Gallatin Road. It doesn't exist anymore. And I took the family with me, both children, and we sat in the middle. Somebody in Ridgetop invited me there. I didn't know anything about that kind of church. So I go there, and when I sat down, I noticed there was a lot of band instruments up there on the stage, and I thought, well, are they going to have a show or something or whatever? And the choir behind them. Well, when they started this band up. It was loud, and the choir was jumping around, and they fell over this rail. Some of them fell over like they were passed out, and people came out of their pews, and we were the only one left. And I asked the guy with me, I said, "Where's the nearest door we can get out?" This scared my kids,
Yeah.
So that was an experience.
Didn't crack out the snakes, though, did they?
No, but I have been there, too, over in East Tennessee. I went to that.
Oh, really?
But anyway, as I started going, I started searching the scriptures to see what they said, if it's true or not. And you remember the Bereans?
Bereans, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I read about the Bereans. I thought, this is what I need to do. I need to search it out and research it, because if God's word is true, I need to put it together so it fits. Mm-hmm. And I always said, and I've said this for years and years, the word has to fit like a hand in a glove. Not a 3-fingered glove, but a 5-fingered glove. It has to fit, or you must have quit.
I knew you were going to go there.
I was going to say
My
that.
criminal justice teacher over here,
right,
he knows all about that case.
But
I even bought the CDs.
They use it to teach criminal justice principles.
Well, with that in mind, I had a lot of starting and stopping and turning around 180 degrees, and a lot of things I had to first believe and then disbelieve, and gradually, it didn't come overnight. I remember praying to God. I said, I got to get this straight. This is killing me. I don't know truth. I don't know who's right or anything. And I remember they used to call on me. I don't mind praying in public. And they used to call me in Sunday school class to pray on the open assembly before we went into the class. And I would. And then I got to thinking, I was listening to the preacher, and he always, when he prayed, it was the same prayer every time. The these and the thous and the King's English and all that. And I said, I don't know where we have to do that. I don't understand. The King James Bible has all that, but, so God and I had a little talk. And I said, no, listen, I've got to know the truth. I'm doing a study now of prayer in the Old Testament of Abraham and Moses, and they were friends of God, it says. Well, they talked as friends. They didn't talk like they were afraid of God, but they respected him, but they talked as friends back and forth. He would give them specific directions, and they would question God. Now, I don't understand this, and they'd go back to him, and he would explain it. He didn't give them everything at one time, just like Moses. He didn't tell him, now you're going to go in the wilderness, and the sea's going to part, and you're going to go up on the mountain of Horeb, and all. He doesn't do that. He gives you a little bit at a time, and he expects us to walk faithfully and on what we know. I don't know it all, nor does anybody else, I guess, but I have to walk and trust what he has taught me, and the word that has been put together. And I'm putting stuff together like it's coming like a waterfall. It's so fast because I've put all this out here and I've got it down and it's working out and it's fitting together. And I think, boy, this is great. And all of a sudden, people get mad at me.
Yeah.
And they don't like that.
Yep.
And I've been told from everything. I've been told I'm going to hell. I've been told I was not a Christian. I've been told,
Yep.
it's water off a duck's back to me. It doesn't bother me. But it's funny, because people, they've decided they're going to be the judge for you, So anyway, as I go, it gets better and better. And I've been at it I'm almost 80 years old. And it is fantastic. It's so exciting, I can hardly not do it because it's like watching a series on television that you really enjoy. And you can't wait till the next episode, Mm-hmm. That's me. I was up at 4:30 this morning looking at stuff, and I started writing down everything. And I thought, this is so good. But then somebody else I run into, they look at me like I'm sort of weirdo because, well, I don't understand anybody as nobody can. I said, who told you that? Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. It's God's word, and God's will is his word. And if it says will, I want to know what it is. Mm-hmm. And it's not like a book where you start at the front and read Genesis, and time you get to Deuteronomy, oh man, I don't want to hear all these names. It's not like that. There's a different way to read the Bible, and there's so many translations now and interpretations that there's some real good stuff out there that's really, really accurate. You just have to look for it. And I've talked to some people who are very, very educated, and they question me on a lot of stuff. Well, when I find out, they're not studying it. They're just trying to find questions to make it sound like that's not true. It's not the truth. And I said, you hadn't studied it, have you? Well, I read that. I said, no, you have to study it to show yourself approved. That's what the word says. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time, years ago, there was a guy that had an article, I think it was 1964 or something like that, in the paper, and he was telling about a church in California who got in an argument over whether Adam and Eve had navels or not.
Oh, good heavens.
And then he goes to show Michelangelo painted Adam and Eve with navels. And they said, well, why would they have navels? Well, they got in such a big discussion, they split up. And somebody said they formed the first church of the Navalites, but I've never found a record of that. But I did find a record of it happening in California.
Oh, my
But
goodness.
people, churches began splitting up with Catholic, with Roman and Byzantine back there in Eastern and Western and all that. And then denominations split because somebody doesn't rightly divide the word. And they say, oh, yeah, we don't need to have chandeliers in the church. It's too fancy. So they break up and split off because some of them have chandeliers and some don't. Silly, silly stuff because they haven't researched it. Now, everybody is a researcher, and that's what God wants. He said, study to show yourself approved. So researching is the key to finding truth. If you want the truth, it's there. And God's word is accurate. There's no errors in it. People keep telling me there's errors. I said, show me.
Yeah, there's no.
I'll show you. I'll show you how it fits.
It's incredible.
That's crazy, but that's, there's some Bible scholars. I don't know why they call them scholars, because they don't know what they're talking about, and there are Bible scholars out there. So you have to watch. There's wolves in sheep's clothing, I call them, and they probably think I am. But anyway, all of that comes around to being, learning how to be faithful and trusting Jesus Christ as your Savior. You have to learn to do that. And once you do that, the walls fall down, and you don't have any barriers anymore. You see the truth. And of course, you can tell somebody that, and without them studying and researching, you don't know. So anyway, I went to all kinds of denominations. I went to home fellowships. I went to everything you can imagine, see what they have. And everybody has a little truth. Everybody has a little bit. I don't criticize anybody, because they all got something. Yeah. But then they got some error in there that they're harping on. Usually that's what they break up, make denominations out of, through theology, eschatology, or something. They'll form a little group, and it's some bit of truth. But then they look right silly sometimes, because they don't fit it in with the rest of the Word of God. It all has to fit, and it will. You just, if you ask God to, in Abraham's case and Moses' case and Paul and all of them, when they prayed, they asked for direction. And we can do the same thing, and God will do that. He will do it. Not overnight, maybe, but it will happen. And I remember, like I said, in Sunday school class, they asked me to pray. Well, I got bothered about the these and thou stuff and praying the same thing all the time, and I thought, that's really not coming from the heart. So I told, when they called, when I did this one Sunday morning, they called on me. I said, no, I'm not praying anymore for a while. And they just didn't know what to think. And
what's Bill up to?
They asked me afterwards. I said, well, what I'm praying is not from the heart, and I don't know how to do that, and I'm going to learn to do it. It took me about 6 months. And then when I started praying again, it wasn't any these and thous. It was from the heart. It was like to a friend, which God is. And they said, that is different. We don't do it like that. I said, but I do, and if you want to hear it, okay. If you don't call on me. Yeah. But that's the way it's going to be. We'll have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. It's not, he's up there and we're down here, And I told somebody the other day that has terminal disease, I said, when we die, we go be with Christ. But when we're alive, Christ is in us.
You better believe it.
The transition is not that bad.
Tabernacle, y'all.
It's good.
Yeah.
And that gives you strength and faith to go on and live while you're living.
Yeah.
And, sometimes we eat the wrong things. Sometimes we do the wrong things. It harms our body, and it's going to get just like I said in arthritis. You do too much of this martial arts stuff, you're going to
pay for it.
Yeah, you're going to have a hip replacement, a knee replacement, or something,
And we are the temple. We talk about being the hands, and we talk about that. We'll break down the scripture where it talks about, well, you're this and you're that, and you're all part of the body, but we are.
That's what the word says.
Indwelling of, we've got the Holy Spirit.
The church house is not the temple.
No.
It's us
and
after Jesus Christ.
There's something I saw on social media the other day where it talked about, we're all thinking about, when we get to heaven, we're going to talk to all these apostles, and what was it like to, be with Jesus? What was it like to talk to God, Abraham? And they're going to be like, what was it like to have him inside you? Yeah. What was it like to actually have that indwelling that we got on the day of Pentecost? They're going to look at us and just kind of shake their head and go, man, y'all missed it. I just think we just don't tap into it. And we're talking with Bill Jones. I wanted to we have a faith. Rachel Culver would normally be here today. This is her day. She's usually here on the third Friday. It's just too icy out there for her. So I called Bill. He's up the street. Mark and I are up the street. And I said, wouldn't it be interesting for our Faith Friday today? We've talked a little bit about Bill's background. How did you get here? Because he's in this deep study. I'm in this deep study right now. My husband is too. My husband was Catholic, y'all. Very different from, there's not that many Catholic churches around here, but up north, They're everywhere. So he came out of a Catholic heritage, and it's beautiful. I'm telling you, I don't agree with a lot of the things that they do. I don't agree with a lot of the things Church of Christ does, but that's my foundation. That's my family. And so, like you said, we're supposed to study to show ourselves approved. We're supposed to be like Bereans, digging through it, and we're supposed to seek a better understanding. And I keep coming back to what I've been studying lately. We've really missed out on a lot of things as the church of today, because for so long we set apart our relationship with our Jewish brothers and sisters, and we need them to help us understand it. Go look at the story of Philip and the eunuch. The eunuch sitting there studying, and Philip comes up, do you understand it? He goes, well, how can I? Unless somebody guides me. I think that's us as the church today. How in the world can we understand Tanakh, Old Testament, without some Jewish guidance? How can we? I don't think we can. And that's what I think we learned from Philip and the eunuch. So we need to be studying it from that
eunuch was reading Isaiah.
Yes.
And if the average person reads Isaiah, they're going to say the same thing. They don't understand that. You got to do some study.
It's expensive. I mean, I cannot say enough. Go and listen to Marty Solomon and the Bema podcast. There's going to be things every now and then he'll say, and you're like, well, I don't know if I agree with that. Well, then go study it yourself. He talks a lot about Rob Bell. I know Rob Bell has really gotten off track.
Oh,
Rob Bell has, but there's a lot of stuff Rob Bell has done that's really good. And you've got to go, okay, yes to that. And oh no to that. And there is not a teacher out there that is not fallible. And here's the thing you need to understand. Rob Bell has the ear of so many young people.
Right.
We've got to be able to discuss it. And, I think at the foundation of it, Ray Vanderlaan seems to kind of be the one that's really, in the things I've studied, he's the one who became really popular sharing the Middle Eastern study. Rob Bell was a student of his. So was Marty Solomon. Do not throw the baby out with the bathwater, okay? Don't. Study this stuff. You don't have to agree with these guys and everything they do, but my goodness, what you can learn. Guys, and I go back, that Philip and the eunuch example to me just burns in my brain. Yeah. How can I, unless somebody guides me? Find somebody that can guide you through the questions that you have. The rabbinical way of studying, the Jewish way of studying was not, don't give me the answers. That's very Western. The Jewish way of studying was ask a question and then you're answered with a question. See how many times Jesus was asked questions and how few he answered. I mean, he was asked a few hundred and answered like a handful. And he would ask it with a question. It's like, you study it. You tell me. You wrestle with it. That story we have. We're just so many things.
I got a little thing on my wall. It says the mark of an educated mind is to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. And Aristotle wrote that, but I keep bringing that up to my mind. I'm not going to take something, but I'm looking at it and see how does this fit. It's like a puzzle. You fit little pieces and run around, try to fit it here, doesn't fit there. And there is a puzzle. The Bible is a puzzle, and you fit pieces together. It makes a perfect union. Mm-hmm. But I'll give you a picture of something on my wall. I got scriptures all over it, or sayings like this that I look at it and it reminds me, how to think. Mm-hmm. And because we have another God, and that's called the devil. In Corinthians, Paul called it the God of this world. Mm-hmm. And he's out there to change our minds. He's out there to make us go a wrong direction. But we have a stronger God who guides us and leads us in the right direction. And you got to realize that you're in a battle. It's a battle of the mind. He wants your mind. And because our mind controls us, what we put down in our heart and really believe. Mm-hmm. So we have, it's a battle all the time. And there's a spiritual battle going on we don't even know about. And sometimes there's so good examples of Abraham and Moses over in the Old Testament where God gave them his will, and then they start trekking, and then they say, well, we have a problem here. And just like when Moses got to the Red Sea, here comes the Pharaoh's army and 600 chariots behind them, and they look around, what are we going to do? What's God say? He didn't say anything. What's Moses say? He didn't have anything from God. And all of a sudden, here comes this big fire cloud down and separates the soldiers from Israelites, and they look around the other way, the water parts. Mm. He didn't tell them he was going to do this. God always goes beyond what he tells you. It's going to be more. And you're so surprised, and here, not only was it muddy, they made solid ground to walk on, and they walked through the sea, and when the other guys get there, here comes the water in and drown them all, every single one. So God doesn't give us the whole picture sometimes. He wants us, I always say, if you want the second drop out of a faucet, you got to have the first drop. Can't get the second one until you have the first one. Mm-hmm. So that's the way God works. He doesn't give you the whole picture. He wants to see, just like my football coach in college, he'd give you an assignment to do, and he said, I just want to see if you can do it. Well, that made me want to do it even more, And God is like that. He gives you an assignment. Are you going to trust him to do it? If not, you're going to stop. Nothing's going to happen. But if you trust him and step out and do the assignment, it's not like faith is blind. Faith is not blind, faith and trust. It's doing what God said to do. And he gives plenty of orders in the New Testament, of what you are to do. And you step out on that. And I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
No.
Leaving Mark out. I'm sorry.
Well, and it's already 7:35, and I haven't done a break yet. Just a couple of things to kind of piggyback on what you had said, and then when we come back, we're going to unpack Mark's background, because I wanted you to hear. We hear a lot from Bill. I wanted you to hear how he got here. I mean, what a beautiful journey. And you've heard a lot about my journey, but I want you to hear a little bit about my husband's, because he grew up in the Catholic Church. And so I think we need to hear his story, because I think you've got people around you that have all these diverse backgrounds. Get to know them, understand how they got to where they got with Scripture. Like Bill said, we've got to be questioning it. Look at the story. And Marty Solomon, go and look up the lesson where he's talking about Jacob wrestling with God or with the angel or whatever. He builds that into such a beautiful lesson about how that's our call to wrestle with what we're told. So we have a deeper understanding of it. There is a Jewish way to study that whenever they come across something that they can't find an answer to, they'll close their scriptures for a minute and then they'll go dance, because they don't struggle with the fact, well, I don't understand that. They dance for the thought of what it's going to feel like when God reveals it to them. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That's a cool concept to me.
Is.
I love that. But we do need to pause. We're going to be out of time, and we need to come and talk to my hubby here. I invited him to talk a little bit about his background. And
no, you just wanted me to drive you here.
Well, there's that. And you almost got me in the ditch. Go watch our road report this morning. It's hysterical. I tell you what, let's talk about Cumberland Connect. Bless y'all's heart. We love y'all. Y'all are just a most awesome thing. This room is full of gig customers. We're in the gig club. And here's the thing. When we say $80 you can get a gig, there's all kinds of packages. And I'm kind of thinking about looking at it and seeing if I don't quite need a gig. Could I save a little money and get a little less? Would that be enough? I want to get an extender. Can I bring my land back a little bit and get an extender to get it out in my barn? So I'm kind of reevaluating that. I may not stay in the gig club because they've got other things to offer. So I may look at it from a little different perspective. But if you can get a gig, I'm kind of like, why not? So I probably will stay in the gig club. But it's $80.
And add the other things.
And just add the other things. Because I was paying $65 a month for terrible internet from AT&T. I'm so sorry, you guys, but they could not. And honestly, it's what they could give me because of the availability of the lines and things that they could justify. But because now it's a utility, you're seeing the broadband being facilitated through our utilities, like our electric companies. Cumberland Connect is powered by Cumberland Electric. We're very close to getting everybody access. Yes, Senator Kerry Roberts now has it. I don't think he's got it all hooked up yet, but he does have it. So he wasn't the last on the list, but he was pretty close, and they're getting close. So I'm excited to be able to tell you everybody has connectivity. You probably do. Why don't you go on and check it out? Go to cumberlandconnect.org, cumberlandconnect.org, or go to, you can call them 800-987-2362, 1-800-987-2362, and ask them when you're going to be knocking on my door, and they will let you know. It's probably going to be really, really soon. And you're going to love it. If you've got financial issues, they're going to help you out as well. There's an affordable connectivity program now to help qualifying households pay for broadband services starting at $30 per month. And they've got packages starting at $30 per month, or you could qualify for up to $30 per month in assistance. The, again, affordable connectivity program. Reach out to them, find out all about it today, and join us with wonderful connectivity. Thanks to Cumberland Connect and powered by Cumberland Electric. And please need to let our sponsors know that U-Turn sent you. so they know that their ad dollars are working. That's why we always say that. And back into the show now. This is Faith Friday. Rachel Culver is normally here on our third Friday, but she's off-sick. She's got some ice and peas at her house, so she is, as most of you do. We were just crazy enough to come in, but so she'll be here next Friday. Mark Vivio, we're talking foundations of faith. Y'all kind of already know mine, so I'm just chiming in here and there. I really appreciate you unpacking it for us, Bill, because that gives us so much insight into where, why you go on the journeys you do scripturally. Okay, Mark Vivio, what were you? You were born a Catholic.
Born Catholic. I was sprinkled and went to a parochial school.
Explain. No. Do you just went right by that? So you were. So at what age you were christened? You weren't sprinkled. You were christened by the priest.
Yes. In
the Catholic Church.
I was too young to remember how old I was.
I know, but I want you to unpack the tradition for you. So you have a baby in the Catholic Church.
Right.
And they always name godparents.
Right.
Who are your godparents?
Janice Bilski and Sonny Vivio.
Okay. And Sonny Vivio came to our wedding. That's that kind of relationship. And I mean, he was in Chicago and he came to our wedding in Nashville. He made it when some others didn't. It's a very special relationship.
He was my first. They were both my first cousins.
Yeah.
They were brother and sister from my aunt and uncle, Frank and Annie.
Right. And so he comes from a really large family. He is from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Let me just unpack it for you real quickly. How many siblings in your dad's family?
9.
9. How many and then there's the 3 in your mom's.
Yeah.
So there's 9, and we're talking Vivio. The background of that, his grandfather, the Vivio, the father of these 9 kids, immigrated from Bohemia when he was what, 2? 2. Under the name Vivio, Wywial.
That's, right? Yeah.
That's on the tombstones of the original immigrants in his hometown. I tell you all this, they moved into an area that was very deeply diverse ethnicities. They had
the iron mines.
Yeah, the iron mines.
Cornish, Belgians,
yes. And your grandmother was a Giuliani, supposedly connected to the Rudy Giulianis. You think she was like an aunt or a cousin?
It was Rudy's aunt.
Okay, great aunt maybe, and I've
Rudy's
never seen real solid proof of that, but I don't know. I'm teasing you, honey. I'm teasing you.
It's not chiseled in stone like the Ten Commandments.
Isn't there like a letter or something where he wrote her?
Yeah, they invited him to her 80th birthday.
Oh, okay.
And he was supposed to come, and then he had to back out because of something.
Okay, well that's cool. And so Giuliani, the Rudy Giuliani, as you think of them as being Italian, they're actually Austrian, right?
Yes.
Is that and so I don't know. There's that's what threw me, is because if you look into Rudy Giuliani, and I'm getting off track here, but none of that matters. You understand, he came into an area that had a lot of diverse ethnicities come in, but they were all primarily Catholic, weren't they?
Yeah,
I found those backgrounds were pretty much Catholic. Let me recommend a book to you. Dr. Bruce Shelley, Church History in Plain Language. Dr. Bruce Shelley, Church History in Plain Language will help you understand why so many of these different nationalities that were coming into this area for the Iron Months, why they were Catholic. It gives you the foundation. That's all they had. That's all they had. They didn't have any of these other things. And it will unpack how all these different branches and all these different denominations spun off of the Reformation, all of those things. But go ahead. So you're a part of that neighborhood, part of that community, very Catholic and very diverse ethnicities. And you're born into this family, this huge family, they changed the name to simplify.
Well, I wasn't born into it. It was grown,
yeah.
From, Grandpa John. The reason he came to America or came into the area was because he was good at running stores. I mean, basically he ran the company store for the iron mines because he spoke multiple languages. So that way there you had these miners that were coming in from different areas of the world, and he could speak to them at the company store. So he ran the store, made sure there was stock, made sure that everybody got billed properly. He was good with mathematics, and then my grandfather, Walter, he kind of followed the same footsteps. They had a local little grocery store across the street from my house, and then they had a saloon next to it, which was another story with my other grandfather. He liked the saloon.
Yep.
And then, like I said, I went to parochial school from first grade to eighth grade. They didn't have a kindergarten, and they wouldn't let me in the kindergarten in the public schools because I was so big. They were afraid I was going to hurt the other kids.
He's not kidding. I mean, he's not kidding. His mother would put him in the grocery cart when he was like 2-3 years old, and he was so big that years later they assumed, because he looked like a 6-year-old, but he was mentally a 2 or 3 year old. And he actually had somebody in the community ask his mother one time about her disabled son, because they thought he had some mental issues because he acted like a 2-year-old when he was a 2-year-old, but he looked like a 5 or 6-year-old. And actually,
8-year-old.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was a really big kid. So go ahead. So they put you in parochial school.
Right. I went to Holy Spirit Catholic School.
Until what?
Up on the hill till 8th grade.
Till 8th grade.
So, I mean, we had our own 7th and 8th grade basketball team. Mr. King was our coach, and he taught. And then from there, we went off to the public school. And while we were in public school, I mean, we had catechism on Wednesday nights. We never missed church on Sunday morning. My grandmother never missed church every day. Every day at 7 o'clock, Catholic church.
Yeah.
She went to church. I was an altar boy for years.
What does that mean? What is an altar boy?
You assist the priest.
Okay.
You get the water and the wine for him when he's doing the sacrament, and you would help do the incense and that kind of stuff at funerals and at baptisms, and you got to ring the bell. That was the fun part. When church was about to start, you went upstairs and rang the bell. And then, they talked me into going to a seminary one summer, trying to coerce me into becoming a priest. At that time, I was thinking seriously about it. I mean, that's a pretty good concept. I mean, you don't get married. You don't have to put up with a woman. Your focus is the church and your parishioners.
Yeah. And
your job was to promote Christ. You didn't have to worry about, making any, you didn't have to worry about your children or your wife. Your focus was your church.
Yeah, you're married.
So I thought you were married to your church, and I thought, well, that's a pretty cool concept,
But how old were you?
I was about 12, right at that, I mean, that's the age you try to hook them, before the hormones kick in. Yes, but it was too late. I went off to seminary and decided that wasn't what I wanted to do, and came home and focused on sports, and went off to college and just kind of, never really looked back.
Okay, so let's concentrate not on the athleticism and all that, because I mean he's an incredible athlete. So is Bill. We need to let y'all talk sports one day, because y'all have got some really interesting athletic backgrounds, and but this is the faith stuff. So you got to college. What was your faith like in college? Did you go to college?
I went maybe a couple times. My one of my roommates, John, he and his sister would go to Catholic church. So once in a while, I'd go with them.
Catholic.
You don't know John.
Okay.
Not Big John.
Okay, it was a different one.
John,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
John from Escanaba.
Okay.
And so I went with them a couple of times, and then they had a church group, or not a church group, but like a home group that we met at college. I went to that a little bit. But basically I was just kind of a heathen through college, focused on sports and lifting weights and going to class. And, Sunday morning was, Box Springs was a very important church to stay into. And
went to Box Springs. We had that joke at Freed Hardeman. It's like, where'd you go to church? I went to Box Springs. That was our answer. I went to Box Springs, and a lot of people wouldn't pick. Oh, okay. I don't think I know that congregation. And then they finally would catch on. But yeah.
So, but yeah, and then after college, I met this goofy woman, and she drugged me down the Church of Christ well. And
but now talk about that. When we met, what was I up to?
You were no good either.
Yeah, I was a heathen too. Because in a lot of it, and I've unpacked the questions that I asked that people couldn't answer, and it drove me out of the church. There's a lot of things that drove me away from the church. My biracial family, and the way that the church reacted to my African American. And something you said, when you said John was Catholic, I was thinking Big John, who is African American.
Right.
And I was like, you didn't see that many African Americans in the Catholic Church.
No.
And so that's why it kind of shocked me. And so, and I would love to understand that. And it has to have been because of slavery and things like that as they were brought into this country, I would think.
Well, there wasn't a lot of Catholics in the South either.
No. And so that's where most of the slave population was, because you were not around many African Americans at all, really. John was your really first friend.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't meet a black man until I was 17 years old.
Wow. I can't even imagine. And see, that's just the difference. People don't understand this. I think we need to understand our background to understand so much about us. But that's why I kind of went, John was Catholic. It kind of threw me because I don't know many African Americans that ever had a Catholic foundation. Okay, let's get back on track. So we got married. I was very heathenistic at the time. I was just questioning everything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to church, and it just tore my parents up, but I just wasn't. And I just couldn't find a place where it fit. It just didn't. I went into a church. I was trying to find my way because we met in the Wrangler at the nightclub in Nashville is where we met. And I was very deep in radio at that time, working every radio shift they'd give me, and I would work on the weekends doing run the control board for a local Church of Christ preacher. Okay. And
on the AM station.
On the AM station, WLAC AM on the weekends would run church services. And so I would help him record his service. And he knew I'd been a student at Freed Hardeman and Lipscomb. I hadn't quite finished at Lipscomb yet. I finished years later, but I was, a student at the CFC. I had the pedigree. Right. And so he was always, you need to come to church. You need to come to church. He'd invite me to church. He did the thing. So one Wednesday night, I got off, we finished traffic, and I got off and I thought, I think I'll go to church. I'm not going to tell you which church it was, but it was over in the Briley Parkway, Nolensville area, right in there. So I walk in on Wednesday night, and guys, I'm deep in radio at this time. I'm doing all the remotes. If there's a remote at a bar, that's me. I'm hosting it. I've got that look, that persona. I'm the radio chick. And so
she had the hair for it.
I had this big hair, and I had this black leather jacket I'd wear and crazy looking blue jeans. I dressed for this style. And we met in 87. So this had to have been 84, 85, right in there. Let's see. Yeah, probably about 1985. And so I went over to this church and I walked in and I sat for the services and all that kind of stuff. And it was what I was expecting. And I just sat there, and at the end, I went to talk to my preacher friend, and I was like, well, thanks for inviting me. I'm glad I finally got here. And he goes, glad to see you, but please, next time you come, dress more appropriately. I did not darken the door of another church until he and I started looking. And that was, it makes me want to weep. Stop it. If you're that kind of church, stop it. And I'm telling you, it drove me away for a long time. And then we met in 1987 at the bar. And I was always wanting to find God again. I had a lot of questions, and man, I've got a book called Jesse. You can go online at Amazon, maybe still get it in Kindle. I don't know if you can get a hard copy. I've got hard copies. See me, I'll get you one. But it tells how this all impacted. And I think it really helps you understand me a whole lot better. But we met in 87. We, dated, very heathenists. We were big old heathens. But then when we decided we wanted to get married, we wanted to get married in something that he would be comfortable in, a church he'd be comfortable in. I didn't have a home convocation. I didn't care. A friend of mine had gotten married at Whitman's Chapel at Scarrett College. And it was this beautiful cathedral. And I thought, man, his Catholic family would be at home there. That'd be good. So we rented the chapel. We got married. And after that point, it wasn't long after we married, we started saying, we want to get back into church. We want to get back into church. So where did that journey take us, honey? What happened after that? So what did we do at first when we started looking for churches? We went to a lot of different churches. Yes. Now we started with the Church of Christ because that was my foundation. He didn't really care. There wasn't a lot of Catholic churches but everyone we
not
went
in Murfreesboro.
Everyone we went to was just so legalistic.
Yeah.
And they would, women can't do this. Well, of course you can't in the Catholic Church either, but they had all these legalistic problems that he and I privately would talk about. And he's like, well, why are we going there then? And then we found one. We went we started, and I'll just tell you, Main Street, I love Main Street Church of Christ. But at the time we got there, they were in some kind of we went for a little while and got dear friends still from there, but we were in a period of time, we got there and they were in some kind of a fundraising thing that just turned Mark off bad. It was like, it was a very much a fundraising period. And he was like, I'm getting out of here. I can't do this. And also too, I don't know. There was just 2 or 3 things I was like, I don't think this is the fit for us, but I loved them to pieces. But that was the big thing. We got there during this big fundraiser, and it was such a turnoff to us that he goes, I'm going back to the Catholic Church. You remember saying that?
Nope.
He did. He said, I'm going back to the Catholic Church. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't fit right. And that was the conversations we were having privately. And by this time we had 2 little ones, guys. We had the twins because when we moved here in 92, we had the twins. And so he was starting to want to go back to the Catholic Church. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think that's the path we need to go. And I remember my parents would have had a fit. They'd have made me move home. I mean, I was raised in the Church of Christ. Yes. They just said, you coming home? I don't know what.
You ain't dating no Catholic boy.
I was married to you at this point. They wouldn't have done that. But we started visiting churches. And because we had been living, let's first, actually, you know what?
You better do
I'm kind of, well, no. I'm gotten backwards here. When we got moved from Murfreesboro, like in 89 to Hendersonville in 1989, we had been on that journey of churches and we had visited different ones and we stumbled into the Madison Church of Christ. That's right. I've got it a little bit backwards.
Because we went to the Hendersonville Church of Christ.
And
they were the ones, they were doing the money collection.
They were doing the money.
4 weeks in a row.
And we were like, nope. And so we went up the street, met Steve Flatt. I was pregnant with the twins when he decided to join when he decided to be baptized, immersion baptism. And I'm not going to say join the church. He was already part of the church because he had known Jesus from an early age. And I don't want to get into all you've got to be immersed. You got to do go and look at this verse. Philippians 2:12, the guy who you want to make all the laws for the church, Paul said before he died, he says, therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, not in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work on your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who works in you both to will and to do his good pleasure. Paul told you right before he went home, he said, I'm here to help you, but you got to work this out yourself. And that was the thing. As Mark was looking into it after we found the Madison Church of Christ, he was like, I want to be baptized. And at this point, I'd been such a heathen. I'd been baptized when I was like 11, 12, something like that. But I was terrified, and I got baptized because I was like, I don't want to burn in hell. The fear, that hellfire and brimstone thing. And so I was rebaptized, pregnant, out to here with the twins. I'll never forget it, Steve Flatt. And but baptized us both. And we've never looked back. Now, does that say that I'm in complete agreement with the CFC? No. I talk a lot about the things that I struggle with, but they're my family. That we got up here when we moved to Springfield. We moved to Springfield in 92. We thought we need to go to a local church. That's when we visited Main Street, and they started that big fundraising thing again. It was just like the Hendersonville church at the time, and turned him off so bad. He's like, I'm going back to Catholic church. That's when you said that.
Lady of Lords.
And so I said, well, maybe we need to get back to the Madison Church of Christ because that's where we had a foundation and a family already established, and it just timed out right for us, and we've been there ever since. So that's kind of our journey. Anything you want to add to that? You were taking too long. Go ahead. Anything you want to add to that before I do my ad? You think about it, and I'll come back and and either one of you guys, if we go a few minutes over, I don't think you'll kill us. But anyway, just let me do my ad. We're going to talk about I've got Rachel Culver on here chiming in. She's I love you, sister.
She probably would be making notes.
She's amazing. She's so anointed. I love her. But let's talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team, my friends in real estate. they're such good friends of mine. I can call them with the most bizarre questions that sometimes aren't even real estate related, because I call him all the time asking him technology questions with my audio and video class that I have going on at Greenbrier because of his background in as a media marketer. And I keep talking to him about bees too. You know, he's a bee expert. His family had bees forever. They just know a little bit about everything. And so, you know, that knowledge, if you're like, man, I really want to have a home where I can keep bees, Barry can help you. Very unique. They're diverse background. They both came out of other careers into real estate. They've got such diversity in their background that they can, there's nobody that they can't help. She is the agent up in White House, one of the agents in White House. He is the broker here in Springfield, got an office right on the downtown square. If you want to reach out to them, you can go lots of ways. They're Cross-Plainians, been there like 28 years. They specialize in Robertson County properties, but also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. You can call Rebecca at 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Go to sellwithbecky.com, buy, B-U-Y, robertsoncounty.com. Always Google. Go Barry Richards, Exit Realty Garden Gate Team, Rebecca Richards, Exit Realty Garden Gate Team, and get you right to their pages. And you can see everything that they're about. Long-time original sponsor of this program, and we appreciate them so much. As I said, when you talk to our sponsors, please let them know. Turn sent you so they know their advertisers are working. All right, guys, let's just wrap this thing up. How are we going to wrap it up here, Bill?
There's one little story I was reading, and I printed it out. I copied off the internet for you. It's called "The Emperor's New Clothes."
Oh, of course.
Oh, you know about that?
Yes,
okay.
Of course.
Well, I think that's so good. You know, the story is, if you don't know it, the Emperor was very, he's conscious about his clothing, and he wanted to look good all the time. So these two guys that were shysters came up and told him, said, "Now, we're weavers, and we weave clothes that are invisible to those who aren't educated enough, or those that not have enough knowledge about things," and said, when you wear them, you can, if someone says you don't have any clothes on, they're not fit for what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So they weave and weave and weave, and finally they have them ready. Of course, you can't see them because it wasn't anything. They were shysters. So they put the so-called invisible clothes on the king. The king looks in the mirror and he said, I don't see anything, but if I say I don't, I'm not fit to be king. Mm-hmm. So he goes out and parades them, and he tells everybody, finds out what's going on. So when they see him, say, "Oh yeah, they're beautiful clothes." They didn't want anybody to think they were ignorant, "Oh yeah, they're beautiful clothes." He goes down the parade, and everybody's complimenting him and telling him how beautiful they are. And then this one little kid, he looks up and says, "Mama, he doesn't have any clothes on." Well,
a child shall lead him.
It just goes to show. Hans Christian Andersen wrote this in early 1830s, 35, 36, somewhere like that. But anyway, the moral of it is, it's best to trust yourself and be honest, speak up for the truth and what is right without honest people ending up looking foolish. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I would approach the Word of God. You got to be honest. You can't go by some book you read or somebody that taught so-and-so. You got to get down in it and study it yourself, and yes. God expects you to do that, and you have to. You just can't go by just reading the titles that people have, and I wanted to end with that.
Well, and don't be afraid to let people guide you, but don't say, well, because they said it. Well, why did they say it? And understand how they came to their conclusion, and be ready to say, okay, well, I don't agree with that part of it. I'm going to continue to dig into it, and just study to show yourself approved. Yeah.
I don't care. Well, let me say one more thing.
Okay, yep.
I don't care if you have a doctor's degree or if you don't have any degree. You will always change. I always see that I'm going the wrong direction. It's always, I'll change, and I want to change. I'll be willing to change 180 degrees if I can see it and show that it fits. Yep. So I will never say I won't change. And for people, I know there's pastors in churches that stick right to the doctrine and never change. They won't grow. Mm-hmm. You won't grow if you won't change.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got to constantly be seeking. And if you're in a church, you don't agree with everything, well, practice that obedience, and that, out of reverence for Christ, be obedient to your church leaders. That's what I do. And that doesn't mean I will never find a congregation that I agree with 100%. Never. If I
do, don't agree with me 100%. We've been at it for 35 years.
Do you realize the story you told about your great grandfather, Grandpa John? I had never heard you talk about him in the company store in the iron mines, and the fact that he spoke so many different languages.
Well,
Grandpa, I got to tell this real quick. His grandpa John that he's talking about, his great grandfather, was an indentured slave in Bohemia, and he escaped his servitude as a young man. The name Vivio he adopted himself. Doesn't really know what his real name was because he had been traded into servitude as a child. So he escaped his servitude, adopted the name Vivio, found a bride, and married in Bohemia, had 2 kids, and immigrated in the early 1900s. That's the background. People talk about slavery. His great-grandfather was a slave. How about that? And people are like, oh man, it's so interesting. But that makes sense why he would have all these languages and stuff, because he had to. He had to be able to fend for himself. He had to learn this stuff. Fascinating.
He didn't take a class in language.
No, that's fascinating. I never heard that about
immersion.
I never heard that about Grandpa John. I'd never heard that. See, you opened up. Any parting thoughts, Mark? No, you bye? Okay, we're done. We're a little over. I'm sorry, you, but this has been. I loved it. I hope y'all did too. It was fun. This is Faith Friday here at 1100 WSGI. We appreciate you joining us this morning. And Monday, Jamie Nixon's coming in at 7:30. Hopefully, if the weather will break and we get him on in here. I want to hear about his transformation. If you don't know Jamie, oh my gosh, he's lost 70 to 100 pounds this past year. It's just completely changed his life because he's just taken on a new lifestyle. And I want to hear how he did it. If people are trying to do better in this year, that's something we need to take care of our spiritual selves, but also we need to take care of our physical selves so we can do the work that we've been called to do. This is 1100 WSGI. Thank you guys for joining us. Stay safe out there.